You're good to go. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's begin. Good morning, everybody. The time is 10:01, and I call the June 8th, 2023 Planning Board meeting to order. We are joined by Vice Chair Bailey.
Morning.
Commissioner Washington.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Dorner. And I am Chair Shapiro. On the business at hand, please note that the deadline for all participant pre-registration and for all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on the Tuesday before this planning board meeting. Registered speakers may join the meeting with a link provided in the email provided by the planning board office or listen by phone by utilizing the call-in number provided in the email. And of course, anyone can tune in to watch the planning board meeting via live stream. And if you wish to speak or become a person of record, you may use our online web form, which you'll see referenced on the screen before you. In addition to the commissioners, we are joined by our senior counsel, Lisa Coleman. We have Jessica Jones, our planning board administrator. Joe Parsons, our senior technical hearing writer, is with us, and Sherry Connor with the Development Review Division is with us as well. We also have staff members Kenneth Flanagan and Ryan Crowder helping us with technology behind the scenes quite ably as always. And moving on to the first item on our agenda, item 2, I would look for a motion to approve the draft minutes of June 1, 2023.
Motion to approve draft minutes.
Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Bailey and second by Commissioner Washington. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. Next, we'll move to item 3A on our agenda, 3A1. We're looking at legislation, CB 54 2023. We have Chad Williams, who's going to give the staff presentation, and I will turn it over to you, Mr. Williams. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. Madam Vice Chair, members of the Planning Board. For the record, Chad Williams, I'm Master Planner with the Countywide Planning Division. Before you today for recommendation are CB 54 2023 and CB 55 2023. And you'll see we've chosen to take these together because they're very much the same bill, just that CB 54 is making some revisions to the zoning ordinance and CB 55 would propose some revisions to the subdivision regulation. These revisions boil down to codifying requirements for technical staff reports to include summaries of any opposition comments that may be received before the technical staff report is published, as well as requirements linked to review and recommendation by decision-making bodies or recommendation bodies, and also in the decision-making process for the Planning Board, Board of Appeals, Zoning Hearing Examiner, and the District Council. These summaries are something that all parties involved in the conversation agree are a good idea, and we have been talking with the County Council and representatives of council staff on these bills. This is something that both the Planning Department staff and you, the Planning Board, already do. Actually, you already provide summaries in your resolutions. We provide summaries when we're aware of opposition in our technical staff reports, and we've been doing that for a couple of years. A good suggestion brought to us by our principal counsel, Mr. Warner. What this bill would do is just put into law the requirement to have these summaries. The one concern that staff had with the bills as drafted is that they could be overly broad in some ways. The technical staff reports clause that is recommended in CB 54 and 55 would seemingly apply to any technical staff report, whether or not it goes to an evidentiary hearing, or at least it could be interpreted that way. And then the provisions that are proposed for review and recommendation by advisory board or official and review and recommendation by decision-making body or official, they pose a different set of challenges because the recommendation party or the decision-making party, depending on the application type, could be the planning director or the DPI director. It's not just the planning board or the district council in the realm of the new ordinance. So working with the council to focus in and more appropriately target these bills, staff have prepared two proposed alternate draft twos for your consideration that would address all the issues that have been identified in the staff report that staff held with the as drafted versions. I would say in our continuing conversations and coordination with the council staff, there was a new recommendation that came to light yesterday afternoon. So should the board be inclined to transmit or endorse and transmit the proposed alternate second drafts, we do ask your indulgence for an additional amendment, and I would go through where those would be placed for you so you can follow along. So in our proposed alternate draft bill for CB 54, on this would be line 29 on page 2, as well as line 22 on page 3. We would ask for an amendment to insert the language. The summary should also comment on objections and arguments made by the opposition that, while not relevant to the review standards applicable for the application type, would be relevant to other approvals required in the development process. And in our drafts for CB 55,
Please read that one. Please repeat,
sure thing.
sir.
Yep. So the addition we're asking for would read, the summary should also comment on objections and arguments made by the opposition that, while not relevant to the review standards applicable for the application type, would be relevant to other approvals required in development process. For example, I'm going to cover where this might go in CB 55, the subdivision bill. When you have a preliminary plan of subdivision in front of you, what this language would be asking is that a summary be prepared of any comments that people may bring in on the design of the buildings that will come in your review during a detailed site plan subsequent to the subdivision application you have at hand.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, just a quick question procedurally, like if people do that, then would we require them to come back to like the DSP to make the same comments, or would we pull that through in the staff report for the DSP as comments that have been provided at an earlier stage of the development?
That's a good question, sir. I wouldn't say that we would necessarily be in a position to require people to come back. So this would be something that we would probably look to, because it'll be part of the resolution. We reviewed the resolutions of prior entitlements for the same chain of development. This would be something that staff would be able to pick up for the staff report.
Okay. So that'd save people another trip in time off of work and stuff.
Understood, sir. Yeah, this is a good point. In CB 55, the subdivision bill, it would be the same clause that I just read off, and it would go, bear with me just one moment to do this side by side here. On page 2 of the alternate draft CB 55, it would follow the end of line 9 and the end of line 29. And that would actually conclude staff's presentation with your indulgence, if you're so inclined to concur with this amendment to the draft bills and to the draft bills themselves. It's really your decision. So thank you. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Commissioners, any more questions for Mr. Williams on this? I think we are good to go. I just want to say I appreciate the collaborative effort. I'm glad you're working. I'm glad we're playing nicely with the council on this one. It's good to see. And again, at some level, this is codifying things that we're already doing, but I think it's helpful and it encourages transparency and all sorts of things. So I think it's going to be helpful for us too. So commissioners, you've heard the staff recommendation. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the recommendation of staff and support CB 54 2023 and CB 55 2023 with amendments and transmit the proposed alternate second drafts of these bills to include the amendments as read into the record by staff to the County Council.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, next is our consent agenda. There's been some moving parts on the consent agenda, so let's make sure that we have the appropriate items on the consent agenda. Maybe Ms. Connor or somebody else, you could help us with that. I just don't want to get this wrong.
Yes, Mr. Chair, item 4B is draft resolutions have been removed from the agenda. All other items on the consent agenda remain as is.
So for C, D, E, and F.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So is there a motion?
Yes, items on the consent agenda 4C, 4D, and 4E. I move adoption of those items in accordance with the recommendation of the staff.
And I would second to add item number 4F.
I've got a motion and a second with a friendly amendment to the motion. Is that okay with the maker of the motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, and let's be sure, because I've got two things in front of me. One says for C, D, and E, and the other says for C, D, E, and F. So
That was my confusion.
you see, that's why I want to check. So Ms. Connor, Ms. Coleman, the motion is appropriate for C, D, E, and F?
Yes.
Okay, that's the motion before us. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. Thank you all. We'll now move on to our regular agenda items. First item is item 5. We have a specific design plan, SCP 8419H8, Enfield Chase, Lot 61, Block A, deck. We have Dean Schilliford, who will be, who is the applicant or representing the applicant, I'm not sure. And then we'll have Ms. Bynum for the staff presentation. So let's hear from staff first. And I'm sorry, this is an evidentiary hearing, so before we hear from anybody, I will swear folks in, but let's start with staff presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning, we can hear you fine.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize.
Take it away, we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am Angel Bynum with the Urban Design Section. Item 5, SDP 8419-H8 for Enfield Chase, Lot 61, Block A, is requesting approval of a homeowner minor amendment to construct a 12-foot by 12-foot elevated wooden deck at the rear of the existing single-family detached dwelling located within the 20-foot required rear yard setback. This application has been reviewed and evaluated in accordance with the prior zoning ordinance. Based on the findings presented in the technical staff report, staff recommends that the planning board approve SDP 8419-H8 with one condition. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Bynum. Any questions for staff, commissioners? None. Do we have anyone from the applicant's team with us?
They are reviewing the hearing. They didn't have any comments. They're in agreement.
Okay, all right, so then we have nobody else. I'm not swearing anybody in. There's no one signed up to speak, so I will close this hearing. And if there's no deliberation, commissioners, I would look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve SDP-8419-H8 along with the condition as outlined in staff's report.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. Thank you, Ms. Bynum. Next item is item 6 on our agenda. This is a detailed site plan DSP 22024 Discovery District. We have Mr. Taub who's representing the applicant. We have Ms. Lockhart who will give the staff presentation. This is an evidentiary hearing as well. We may have folks. Mr. Taub, do you think we're going to have folks who are going to be speaking? Am I swearing folks in?
No, actually, Mr. Chairman, good morning. For the record, Larry Taub with the firm of O'Malley, Miles, Nowlin, and Gilmore on behalf of the applicant. No, actually, we're here this morning seeking a continuance of this case for several weeks. We've worked with staff on this in terms of that. And this has been a complicated case. We're working with the city of College Park, and there are several parties involved. And we're close to our agreement, but we still need a bit more time to complete it. So we're respectfully requesting a continuance. And it's my understanding through discussions with Ms. Lockhart and Mr. Hunt that this can be continued to the planning board date of June 22nd, and we would so request.
Thank you, Mr. Taub, for stepping in. And let me turn it to Ms. Lockhart to add or clean up anything or just give us some direction on this.
Okay, will do. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, I am Dominique Lockhart with the zoning section. Item number 6 on the agenda, as stated, is detailed site plan DSP-22024 titled Discovery District, which proposes constructions of 2 buildings with office and retail spaces throughout. The applicant for this case has requested a continuance to the June 22nd planning board hearing to allow the applicant and the city of College Park additional time to work through condition. The continuance requires the applicant to grant a waiver of the review period, which staff has requested to be submitted in writing. It is staff's understanding that the applicant will verbally grant the waiver on the record today and follow up with submitting the written waiver. And staff recommends approval of this continuance request.
Thank you, Ms. Lockhart. And we've already heard from Mr. Taub. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Taub?
Just that, yes, in fact, I do accept or do grant the 70-day waiver. I sent an email to Ms. Lockhart yesterday with regard to that, and I will certainly be happy to state verbally here that we do grant the 70-day waiver for this case.
Okay, great. We've heard from the applicant, we've heard from staff. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request for continuance for DSP-22024 to planning board date of June 22nd, 2023.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Ms. Lockhart, anything else we need to say or do related to this motion?
No.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
But but just to add to the discussion, one of the things that I wasn't quite sure on in the staff report that would be useful to know when it comes back to us is the FAA determination and whether and how that relates to the MAA determination. I know that there was a discussion going back and forth on the height of the building, and I saw that the MAA was resolved as not having any sort of objection, but it wasn't clear to me whether or not the FAA report was completed and came with the same determination. So if that could just be clarified in the presentation, I think that would be useful.
Thank you for that. I'm sure staff and the applicant have both noted that, and we'll have the answer when it comes before us. And did you vote as well, Commissioner Dorner?
Yes, I voted in favor.
Okay, and I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Taub.
Thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Lockhart. I believe that is it. Ms. Connor, any further business before us?
No, Mr. Chair, no additional items to come before the board today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, without objection, we are adjourned for this very short meeting.
Wonderful. Have a great rest of the day.
Great.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.